It's the starter car. It's the original starter car. Who would have thought that when engine swaps came out, this car would end up being ridiculously overpowered? I haven't really seen anyone use this for anything other than drifting. Well, it's not bad for an early car, but you're probably better off just skipping over to more expensive cars. Despite being a front-engine car, this thing often feels like it's mid-engined. Since weight is such a deciding factor in performance for full throttle, cars like this isn't going to be capable of much even when swapped. Once again, it's not a bad car, but if you're looking for performance, you might as well skip over to a more expensive car. This used to be good, but then it got nerfed for no good reason. Just like the E92, this car often feels like it's mid-engine, like it loves to spin. For the longest time, this car was turned into a compass due to a bug, and when they finally fixed the bug, the game died. It's not too heavy, but it's still heavy enough that you're going to need to swap it if you want to drift or race with it. Unfortunately, electric cars are heavier than gasoline cars, so in this game they are pretty bad. Why did they remove the stock spoiler from this car? It's the first of what I consider a mid-level car, but you're better off saving up a bit more money and buying this. This Audi R8 just offers such good performance for what it costs. For a much pricier car, you get performance that's pretty much similar to the BMW M3. Well, obviously you aren't going to try and race this thing. Now we're getting back into front-engine cars that are pretty decent. Oh wait, here's the only rear-engined car in the game, and it's a pretty good one at that. The original full-throttle drift car. Back in Horizon, this car used to have amazing acceleration, and I used it for racing all the time. Now it doesn't seem to be as good, because the R8 exists for a much lower price. It costs a bit too much for what it can do. Once again, the R8 exists for a much lower price with pretty much the same performance, so why would you buy this unless you just wanted a Lamborghini? It's barely any better than the Huracan. Why would you pay 270 grand for this? Seriously? $500,000 for a car that's barely any better than the previous one? I wouldn't recommend buying this unless you want to roleplay as Bull from Most Wanted. Okay, at 750 grand, it's not a bad car admittedly, but you're better off just saving a bit more money and buying this. This is definitely worth 900 grand, and this is even after it's got madly nerfed. 1.1 million for this? Well, I guess there's a reason why I barely ever see anyone drive this in-game. Don't worry, it won't catch fire. Contrary to popular belief, this car is actually the second fastest car in the game in terms of top speed. Unfortunately, all the Bugattis in this game are too heavy to do any real racing, so you really just buy them for the fact that they are a Bugatti. This car handles amazingly, too bad it kinda lacks the mid-range acceleration of some of its competitors. I think I've only ever seen two people drive this car since Full Throttle came out, and with good reason. This car just slides everywhere it goes. Probably one of the best cars you can buy. Used to be one of the best cars you could buy. Before the engine swap update, this and the Lamborghini Aventador SVJ were the best cars in the game. You're more likely to see people swap the engine from this car into an A86 than actually use this car for racing. It costs 5 million, yet it handles worse than a 900 grand car, and it's also slower. Fastest and most expensive car in the game. Welcome to Full Throttle, where a Tesla Roadster is actually a very competitive car if you swap an internal combustion engine into it. Not as good as the F50, but for $1 million it's still a pretty fun car to drive. Although it tries to be an M3 GDR, this is actually a fake.